Hi, Grandview family. On January the 24th, the elders of our church are going to be asking you to assist them in making a very important decision regarding a specific ministry in the KW area. You may have heard by now that we've been invited by our Feb Central Regional Church Planting Agency to bring together a team of willing churches and give leadership for the establishing of an Arabic-speaking Muslim ministry in our city. This is not a convenient time for us. I'll grant that. We weren't looking for this, but we believe that for various reasons, this initiative comes to us from the Lord. And we want to share with you in this video some reasons for that and give you tools that can help you pray with us and work towards January the 24th, where we will make a decision. First of all, why are we even having this conversation? What is it about this Arabic ministry that really resonates with us? Well, number one, we need to realize that Arabic speakers are the fastest growing demographic in our area, which gets our attention because we're interested in the harvest field. Many Muslims, as Nadala shared with us last Sunday, many Muslims, as they come to Canada, are more likely to ask the questions that have been on their heart for a long time, but were unable to be asked back home. They're open to exploring Christianity. Number three, a proven church planter / evangelist is ready now to start this work immediately. We don't need to bring him from the Middle East. He already resides in southwestern Ontario, nearby to us, and fellowship tells us that he is ready now to relocate and begin a ministry among us. Also, we appreciate the fact that in the long term, the best way to evangelize any area is to work toward the establishment of a church eventually. This mission will in due time result in what we might call a church within the Grandview Church family. More on that later from Pastor James. And finally, we agree that Christ has called us to reach the lost. We have a burden for lost people. And in my view, there are few people groups that are more lost and more in the grip of the evil one than people in this particular people group that we're talking about. Initially, this proposal came to Forward Baptist Church and invited them they were invited to lead the initiative, but for various reasons, the invite came to Grandview. And so we've been asked to pull together a group of churches that are willing to lead this ministry. But Forward is unable to take that responsibility. They've just had a change in leadership there, and it's just not a good time for them to be focusing on this outreach, although they're very happy to share with us, as some other churches are, in the financial costs of this. We also need to say that our fellowship leadership, Tom Haynes and Bashara Karkafi, they have approached us about this Arab mission. And since that time, the elders have been praying about this. We've invited you to join us with us in this prayer, and you've been doing that, and we're grateful. But this is an extraordinary ask. I say that because we're in a global pandemic. This is not an ideal time to be doing things of this magnitude. We're also 10% behind in our giving for reasons we might understand. But we've also just launched a church plant. Don't we get a breather in the Lord's work just to kind of catch our breath? But in a break from precedent, at a members meeting fairly recently, we did share with the church family that this is a matter we believe that the Lord would have us pray about, and we are doing that. It's really, to me, the kind of thing that God says, you think this is impossible, you think this is unlikely, let me show you what I can do. That's how I feel about it. While the Holy Spirit can reveal His will to us in many ways, It usually includes the seeking and receiving of wisdom mixed with faith. So, what is the wisdom that is behind this motion? And why are we persuaded? And what do we believe God needs to do that we cannot do? Number one, Grandview is organized for this kind of thing. We have on our staff, in the person of Pastor James, someone who is dedicated to cross-cultural evangelism with a specific skill in church planting. We are well organized to give leadership for this kind of thing. Also, I don't know about you, but I was encouraged by the good success of the planting of Heritage Grace. I mean, we know a little bit about planting a certain kind of church. And whereas many churches struggle with that, God allowed us to do that with minimal conflict, for which we are very grateful. Number three, as you'll see in this video, we have a funding plan that is feasible. And you'll take a look at those numbers. Number four, this endeavor has the support and the expertise of our fellowship church planting brain trust, and we're so grateful for them. And number five, in order to accommodate this in the early stages of ministry, our staff has addressed the 10% shortfall so that we can realistically entertain this kind of motion. We're optimistic that our giving will improve when the COVID epidemic ceases. And we're also convinced that the harvest in this demographic is ripe. Muslims are interested in Jesus Christ. We have an opportunity before us to participate in a great harvest. And number eight, this mission to Muslims will not diminish our donor base like Heritage Grace did. That was a different kind of plan. We gave away generous tithers to that ministry for good reason. The prospect here of an Arabic-speaking church plant will not require Grandview, once again, giving away those kinds of people. This is a ministry that will gather new people from the Arabic-speaking community, who will eventually support this ministry. So, as you watch this video, join with us in prayer so that as we move toward our meeting date, we'll have one mind as to what God is telling us that He wants us to do.
I want to take just a few minutes to try to explain how this ministry to Arabic peoples will function within the whole of Grandview Church. We've been speaking about bringing Nadala and Rochelle to the region and using the term missionary. Now, using this term is intentional, obviously, and speaks to how we're viewing them, even as Nadala will participate as part of our staff team at Grandview. We believe that in launching any endeavor such as this, much of the work that they're doing should be classified as mission work. Just like the Apostle Paul and Barnabas did in their missionary journeys, they established relationships, find common ground with people, share the gospel, gathering of people to study the scriptures together, establishing communities of faith, and even developing leaders. These are all the foundations of what it looks like to do missionary work throughout the world. And so that's why we're asking you as Grandview Church to see this ministry in more of an unorthodox manner. Not unorthodox to God, but to us a little bit. In essence, we are seeking to place this ministry under the outreach budget, so like Heritage Grace, so that we avoid confusion, and also the belief that we're simply adding a staff member at this time.
Well, hello, Grandview family. Wish you were here. I'm in your church building, and you're not. But it is so good to be able to at least connect with you online in this way. I was asked to answer a few questions for you, and the first one is, why are we approaching Grandview with this opportunity to partner with Feb Central and see an Arabic church, a missionary endeavor in the Waterloo region? Well, first, we approach Grandview because you are a healthy and strong local church that's part of our Feb Central family, and we know that. You have a vision for church planting that has been here for a long time and has been taking root and bearing fruit in a good way. And so we just love to see that. We also know that the need in the Kitchener-Waterloo region for an Arabic-speaking and Muslim-focused outreach ministry here is huge, and it's growing year over year. And so that's the why we've approached Grandview, because we know that you can handle something like this. Why Nadala? Well, you probably know why after having met them online, Nadala and Rochelle already. I first met Nadala back in 2016 when I was teaching at a church planting conference in Beirut. At that time, Nadala was living as a refugee there. He was in hiding at that point, kind of from his extended family. And his idea of hiding was to evangelize every Muslim that he could find. Nadala was working in the church. What an amazing guy. He left a lasting impression. It took us quite a while to transition Nadala to get him here to Canada, and that's a story for another time, but you should hear it. He ended up coming, and we got him connected in Oakville at Faith Baptist Church, but that was a part-time role, and as we've worked with Nadala, we've realized that he really will work best in a full-time capacity in ministry, to use his gifts and talents in that way. And we realized that connecting with another ministry was going to have to happen, because Faith wasn't able to do that. And so this is not something that's completely new for Feb Central. We've been doing this with other churches. Some of the churches that we've been working with are churches that you would know, like West Park Church in London. West Park has an Arabic ministry there that we've helped them to start, along with a Spanish ministry and a Chinese ministry that all go alongside their English ministry. And so they have 4 churches that all meet at the same time in the same building, and they share children's ministry and youth ministry as the children are able to function in English. And it's an amazing story of God doing something really neat in a community like that. Another church you'd be familiar with is City Center Baptist Church in Mississauga. And City Center just started a brand new Arabic ministry under this same model, and they launched this past fall, and so they're up and running. And then Emmanuel Baptist Church in Barrie also has started the same kind of ministry, and they just started this fall as well. So God is doing this across our region, reaching into the Arabic-speaking and Muslim population, and we're hoping that you as a church family here at Grandview can partner with us to see this happen in this region.
So in light of this view, and as part of the larger cooperative effort of our denomination, you'll see that in the communication document that you've been given and sent, that we're seeking to raise funds alongside of our brother and sister churches within our region. Just like our sister church, Forward Church, generously raised $30,000 in this Christmas season to support this endeavor and to get it off the ground, we're approaching other fellowship churches in our region to participate through prayer and financial support. Our hope is that this ministry, this opportunity will serve as a catalyst for a more cooperative mission among our brother and sister churches, especially in the area of church planting. And we're inviting individuals to support this mission as they do other missions and missionaries. And so we're asking anyone who has the financial means to do so to consider to supporting this Arabic ministry above their tithing if the Lord would stir your heart.
The proposal that Grandview host and support a missionary to the Arab Muslim community was discussed at the December Finance Committee meeting. At this meeting, 2 concerns were discussed. First was, is this something that we can take on given the overall decline in our givings and the projected challenges to our current year's budget? Second, can we take on this challenge and proceed with the technical upgrade plan? To answer the second question first, the technical upgrade was to use funding from our accumulated surplus from prior years. The funds for this reduce our reserves overall, but does not impact our overall budget. The proposed Arab ministry would not impact the previously approved upgrade. To answer the second question, as discussed at our fall focus meeting, we have a plan in place to meet the projected shortfall for the current budget year, which involves reductions to the various ministry budgets. For this year, aside from this project and the technical upgrade, we believe that we will end up the year better than we had originally planned when the budget was set last year. In order for us to proceed with bringing on a missionary to the Arab Muslim community, we recommended extending the financial projection in the plan to 3.5 years to give us a better understanding of what the long-term impact would be. This was completed by the board and included in the proposal that you received. In developing these projections, our leaders and finance committee believed that it was imperative to make sure this plan had minimal impact to Grandview's ongoing budget. And we believe that the proposed plan is reasonable and achievable and should have a minimum impact as we were looking for, should our offering stay at the current level. As you note from the financial plan provided, this effort isn't solely a Grandview initiative, but one encouraged and supported by FEB Central. As a result, the fellowship and other FEB churches have been encouraged to support this initiative as well. And our candidate will also be active in raising support from his contacts. The net result of this plan should see the ongoing expenses covered. And we're off to a great start with this plan. Our Christmas offering was $31,827, which was $11,827 over the target. And Forward also was able to raise their support in their Christmas offering as well, which means that the first year is covered. So Grandview will concentrate its fundraising efforts on years 2 and 3. Thank you.
One of the questions most frequently asked to me so far has been, what's the long-term future of this, or where are we going with it? And will it become a church plant like Heritage Grace and eventually its own entity? And to this we must say, perhaps, if that's the way the Lord wills, but that's not the immediate plan. We believe that there are many models for establishing new congregations in sites in this day. The plan for Heritage Grace was early on was that it could pursue independence as soon as it was able to in a healthy manner. To contrast, we see this ministry and mission to Arab peoples as establishing a long-term outreach in our region, and one that functions using this terminology as a potential congregation within our church family. And as we learn from other churches that are currently doing this, that have established Arabic ministries throughout Ontario, there is a great deal more patience needed and time needed to ensure a healthy family is built up in these days. And so in brief, expect this to look differently than Heritage Grace. An example of the unique way in which this ministry sort of functions and interacts with the whole Grandview family is the integration of children and youth. One of the expectations is that there will be eventually a gathering, a worship gathering, for those who are being reached in the Arabic language. So one of the key learnings that we're picking up from other Arabic outreaches is how to care for and disciple youth and children. And so most of the families being reached in these days have kids who are going to school in English and are functioning quite well and in the English language. And so as they grow up, many of those children and youth transition to wanting to be a part of a more multicultural congregation rather than simply being in an Arabic-only gathering. And so therefore, one of the key integration pieces to this ministry is to hold an Arabic gathering either on Sunday morning or perhaps another night of the week where children and youth can participate in one of Grandview's youth and children's programs. And so this will be a key piece for the discipleship process, contributing to the unity of this ministry within the whole of Grandview Church's vision. Another question you might have is what are some of the steps that are going to be taken in the next few months in establishing this ministry? And the idea is that Nadala and Rochelle would move to Kitchener during the next period of time and begin to visit areas of the city and the region where Arabic-speaking peoples tend to congregate, markets, community centers, and as such. And so while this is happening, Nadala will continue to use social media platforms to target audiences and to communicate gospel programming throughout this region to a local audience and letting that message go out to the rest of the world. Did you know that Nadala's has an online radio program called Voice of Faith that currently has 70,000 listeners per week? It's an amazing opportunity. And so once relationships are established locally and the gospel shared and people come to faith, we believe that small groups of believers will gather to study the scriptures and to do evangelistic Bible studies, and eventually we will see a worship gathering established. And so these are just a few of the activities you can expect Nadala and Rochelle to be working on as they come into our community. Well, I'm sure you've got some more questions, and that I haven't answered all of your questions comprehensively, but that's what the town halls on January 13th and 18th are coming up will hopefully do, and we're looking forward to your questions there. But my hope is that you will begin to sense the heartbeat of God, God's passion to see us as Grandview to become a multicultural congregation worshiping together, and that how this opportunity uniquely fits into Grandview's mission and vision going forward.
The elders of Grandview are unanimously recommending this proposal to bring Nadala to Kitchener to start an Arabic ministry in the region of Waterloo. The motion you'll be voting on is to amend Grandview's annual budget for the fiscal year we are currently in by adding $32,000 to the reaching budget. This will cover the cost for the 5 months remaining in this year and get Nadala started. In June, the expenses for the next year, the year ending June 30th, 2022, will be voted on as part of next year's budget. For the reasons already given, we believe that God has provided us with this opportunity. The only uncertainty is that we don't have all the financing in place for the full 3.5-year plan. However, of the $269,000 needed for the next 3.5 years, God has already provided 45% of this amount, or $120,000. With the money already committed, along with the plans we have to raise the rest of the funding, we believe that this is sufficient to move forward in faith. If you have questions on this proposal, please come to one of our town hall meetings to ask these questions and to hear what others have to say. The first town hall meeting is on Wednesday, January 13th at 7 p.m. and the second one is on Monday, January the 18th, again at 7 p.m. Both of these are on Zoom. Then be part of our members meeting where we will vote on the motion, which will be at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, January the 24th, also on Zoom. Please check the Grandview for the Zoom links for these meetings. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Pastor Bob, Pastor James, or me. We'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.